and you have the audacity to lie about high profile people, you don't think that someone's going to come out and challenge that, especially the person that you're lying about.
Breaking right now, Meghan Markle's sister, Samantha Markle, has spoken out in a major new interview on the front page of the UK's Daily Mail newspaper. The interview comes at a very difficult time for the older Markle sister, who has turned 60 without the support of the Duchess, and more significantly, lost her mother. So we've got a lot to talk about today. But Sam, it is so wonderful to have you here. And obviously, I've known for some time about the passing of your mother, but I didn't want to say anything on the show because I know it was something that you were working through. So real condolences. I'm so delighted that you were able to reconcile in her final months, but it was really shocking to learn reading the Daily Mail that you believe your relationship with your mum had been impacted at the end because of Meghan. You say everyone sucked up to Meghan, even on the fringes of the family. It was like the emperor's new clothes. Unfortunately, my mother fell prey to it.
Exactly. Around the wedding, it was so amazing to me how, whether it was people being sensationalized by fake news or just by, the glamour of the wedding. And I think everyone wanted to glom onto a fairy tale so much that this princess in this fairy tale could do no wrong. So instead of giving me the benefit of the doubt then and realizing and thinking, gee, maybe she's telling the truth. Maybe she's not, quote, bashing her sister. Maybe she's not glomming on for money. Maybe she's got something to say here, and maybe it's important and just as valid as what we all have to say. Instead of doing that, it seems like everyone jumped on this bandwagon and let's get Sam, let's vilify Sam. Oh, she's horrible. She's jealous. She's bashing her sister.
All right, folks. This is the interview Meghan Markle did not want you to see. Her own sister, Samantha Markle, just came forward in a bombshell interview, and let me tell you, she does not hold back. Samantha calls Meghan a malignant narcissist, who has manipulated everyone around her and fabricated key details about her life. And honestly, after everything we've seen, it's not hard to believe. She even goes as far as to say Meghan lied about her career, her education, and her financial struggles. Remember when Meghan claimed she worked at the U.S. Embassy? Samantha says that never happened. And the so-called scholarships Meghan bragged about? All fake. If this is true, this means Meghan's entire self-made woman story was a carefully crafted lie.
And I think we all have seen by now, and I'm going to quote Tom Bauer, by saying, he said, look, we all laughed at Samantha and she was right. And everything she said has come true. And that's not, I hate to toot my own horn, but the reality is it was very hard because even members of my own family, my mom at that time, rather than talking to me, was walking in the antline. Everybody was afraid to point out that the emperor wasn't wearing any clothing. It was much easier to demonize Samantha than it was to question the fairy tale. And very hard because it was my own mom. So many lies were put out there about me, for revenge, using the royal wedding for that weren't true, but just, you think when you have people that love and support you, that they would come to you first and say, look, what do you mean by this? Rather than jump on a bandwagon and say, oh, she's horrible, and just glaze everything in this really ugly, untrue, unjust fake news blanket. Shocking, but what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Oh, big time, big time. And I'm so delighted that you were able to sort it with your mother. But you have these two major life-changing events, Sam, within just a few weeks. The death of your mother, turning 60. Did you have any expectation that your sister might view that as a moment to reach out or send you some sort of message?
Oh, come on. We're talking about someone who seemingly had no feelings about the Queen of England suffering from bone cancer as she mocked her on the Netflix thing. We're talking about someone who seemingly had no feelings, no remorse, empathy, or shame for the treatment of our father as he suffered through 2 heart attacks and a stroke. So, I wouldn't expect to get any special consideration, all things taken together. Mm.
But you do say, Sam, that when your father, Tom, passes away, that you
Right.
hope she can feel and remember that he loved her more than life itself. And you say, or she will never be able to look at herself in the mirror. You also say, maybe Harry can learn something from you too. Now, are you referring there to the fact that there's now an estrangement in terms of his family as well, not just the Markles?
Exactly. And again, let's hold out for the just, the however minuscule possibility that we're talking about 2 people who may not be narcissistic, because if those assertions out there, those um, social media diagnoses out there about narcissism and malignant narcissism, if that's true, then the likelihood is that they're not going to feel, they're not going to have that epiphany. They're not going to look in the mirror and feel anything but adoration for themselves, in my opinion. And that's really sad, because, if, and let's say with children in the picture, you have to role model empathy, remorse, shame, accountability, connectedness. And if you're not, then it kind of shatters the bonding and the trust within that family unit. So, I would suggest that if they can't do it for people that they have already harmed, and there's a cascade of them, then maybe they should think about doing it for their children and for themselves. But again, if they are narcissistic, and I'm not so sure, in my opinion, that Harry's not also, they're not going to feel that. And I don't think it's just avoidance. I don't think it's just denial. I think there may be something fundamentally disconnected there that prevents them from that feeling. Yeah.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because Samantha says Meghan knew her family could expose her, so she kept them far away from the wedding. Think about it. Why would Meghan, who loves playing the family woman card, completely cut off her own blood relatives on the biggest day of her life? According to Samantha, it's because Meghan didn't want the truth slipping out. Samantha even suggests that if her family had been at that wedding, the royals would have immediately started questioning Meghan's past. The real Meghan Markle could have been exposed right there at the reception. And let's be real, isn't that exactly what Meghan does? She isolates, controls, and then plays the victim when it all blows up in her face.
Big time. I mean, goodness, you only have to look at their behaviour. But it was interesting, though, because from this fascinating Daily Mail article, and I was so glad, Sam, because, I used to work there, but I haven't trusted the Daily Mail recently because they seem to flip-flop. And one moment they are all over Harry and Meghan, they're pushing their propaganda, they're trying to settle the court case. It's very, very odd what's going on with them. But this report really understood you, and I think totally was fair, which was great, because I was worried, who knows what they're going to do.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've had such experience with intentional skewness, with purposeful misinformation. I think this was a beautiful, well done article.
Yes.
There was one little mistake, the picture of Meghan on my lap. That wasn't a visit. She was actually brought home from the hospital. We were all in our family home. Nobody was visiting. And things like this, when they come up, when little, technical errors come up, I still wonder, was that intentional so that someone could skew the story and say, see, they didn't really live together? Like, there's always this agenda out there. And there was a, quote, entrenched media agenda against me at the time. I found out, which was shocking. But now in retrospect, I get it. I get what President Trump says about fake news. I've learned exactly what that is and how the game is played.
Oh, me
But
too.
this was well done, beautiful, honest, and so I thought it was lovely.
And they said in the article, Sam, if Samantha could,
Mhm.
she would march both Meghan and Harry to their respective parents and force them to beg for forgiveness.
Yes.
And you say, as souls, we don't want to see our kids pay us back. My dad doesn't want Meghan to pay him back, but you want love from them because there is a
Mhm.
pain in your heart if it isn't there. Now, you speak to your father every day. You're incredibly close, even though, of course, you are in Florida and he is in Mexico. Talk to me
Right.
about how he is coping psychologically with the fact that Meghan remains so close, yet he hasn't met his grandchildren. He hasn't seen her for years.
Well, it's hurtful, but I think there comes a point when you have to deal with reality. And when you realize that you have a child or you have someone in your life who is seemingly disconnected, and that there may be an organic basis for that there may be some narcissism or some external temptations that just facilitate them really avoiding accountability and compassion. I think he gets that now, and I think he understands that it's beyond his control. And as a parent, you can only do what you can do. It's like the old saying, you can lead a horse to water. You can give them all the tools that they need in their life toolbox to become full functioning, feeling, positive, thriving adults. But it doesn't always work the way parents plan. And they have peers, they have temptations, they have egos that sometimes run out of bounds. And those things are really powerful opiates. They're also distractions that can lead to a lot of heartbreak. So I think in all fairness, my father, and it's sad that he's had to go through these role exits, these changes, this reaching a point of acceptance. It's like stages of loss and dying. You get to a point, rage, denial, you get to a point where you accept it, and it's better for you, it's better for everyone. But I can only say that I think they need to be accountable, not just if it's not for themselves. And I'm not saying fake it.
And now we get to the most heartbreaking part, because according to Samantha, Meghan's manipulation didn't just stop at the wedding. It actually damaged her own mother's final years. Samantha reveals that before their mother passed, Meghan's influence caused a massive divide. She says people around their mother sucked up to Meghan and made it impossible for Samantha to have a proper relationship with her own mom. She says they were able to reconnect before her mom passed, but the damage Meghan did was already done. I mean, if this is true, it's beyond disgusting. And let's not forget, this isn't the first time Meghan has been accused of isolating people. She's cut off her dad, her half-siblings, her childhood friends, and now even her own mother suffered because of her influence. The pattern is undeniable.
Be accountable to those you've hurt. At least apologize, even if you don't fully understand it. That's not everybody else's problem. That's your problem if you're disconnected. But I think you owe it to people around you. And if you want to be such change agents and you want to be such humanitarians and diplomats, you probably want to think about role modeling the things that your PR says you are, even if it's not real. Fake it till you make it. God, and that's a horrible way to live. But for others around you, sometimes you have to do that. And sometimes you have to, especially for your kids. So, and that may require some counseling. If the feelings aren't real, then maybe you should do some method acting And, I've seen the one chair left I go. Why can't you do the same thing with empathy, remorse, shame, compassion to maybe grow a little bit yourselves as well as benefiting others? How about that?
I know. And the thing is, Sam,
Especially,
you know, you make the point that I have thought for so many years. You say, I still don't understand why she couldn't have just acknowledged us. And you even come up with the line of what she could have said. This is my family, and I am proud of them. We are like any family, good and bad. She didn't have to endorse everything. She didn't have to say everything was perfect, but just point out that we're a family. Of course, there's ups and downs, just like all families have ups and downs and difficulties in relationships. But she didn't do that. And what's so fascinating to me is that you say, indeed, she had started to cut you and Thomas out even before she met Harry. As soon as she found fame in Suits, that was when she started to begin, shall we say, Sam, the ghosting process. I now know, though, people just say she Markled someone, but she did it with her own family. And why was that? Because she was famous. She didn't need you guys. What was it about? Was she embarrassed?
Well, I'd say pull up a chair, but you already have one. Everybody else, pull up a chair. So it kind of started with the Soho thing, and we all understood young women want to be independent. They're doing their career, globetrotting, whatever. So we were proud of that. But the whole wedding thing, the being like just cut off, was weird, and we had to like try and do the math. No scientific calculator was helping us with this, but I finally came to realize, and I think it made more sense as all of the lies came out, as we saw PR pushing the lies. You didn't get grants and scholarships in school at all. Dad paid for everything from the time you took your first breath until, Northwestern and Trevor, and it was all dad, right? Right, you never worked for the embassy. Let's get this straight right here. I think that was a god-awful, grandiose lie. Uncle Mike, who worked for the embassy, put in a letter of recommendation as a favor to Dad, and Dad paid for a 5-week study program where she got to kind of watch and see what, goes on at the embassy. But let's face it, a 5-week study program is like not even a junior college summer certificate. So it's not like you learn a whole lot, but you get to kind of understand a little bit about what they do. Long story short, she went on Rachel Ray and Craig Ferguson and said that she worked for the embassy right out of college. No, you didn't.
So now the question is Meghan's self-made woman fairy tale officially over? Because let's be honest, the public is waking up to her manipulations. Polls show that Meghan's approval ratings are still in free fall. The British public has completely turned against her, and even in America, people are starting to see through the act. In social media, brutal. People are saying Samantha's revelations confirm what they already suspected, that Meghan's entire brand is built on deception. Her Netflix deals, struggling. Her Spotify podcast, cancelled. Her Hollywood allies, quietly backing away. No. Even her own family is coming out with the truth.
That, Frank Abagnale Jr. would just love this. It's like that's pretty grandiose. You don't go from being a biology student to sending letters home saying you're a heart surgeon or you're an airline pilot when you're really not. And so with that said, I came to understand that the likely reason, in my opinion, for keeping everybody away from the wedding was because those lies would have come out right out of the gate. Everybody gets champagne at a reception and they start talking about picnics and family memories. And I think the royal family would have been like, what do you mean she didn't work for the embassy? What do you mean she didn't get grants or scholarships? I thought she was an independent, self-made woman. And Uncle Mike would have said, no, she didn't work for the embassy. I put in a letter of recommendation. I worked for the embassy, he would have said. And Thomas paid for a 5-week study program. So
she was scared of the truth emerging?
Yeah, yeah. Well, wouldn't like you tell people the royal family when you want to garner admiration, a worldwide family and the monarchy. Of course, what you want to think that you're going to be an asset to them and a benefit to them, and by if you have any political plans. So to say that you worked for the embassy, but why couldn't you just be honest and say, I would have liked to, and I had a short experience thanks to my uncle and my father, and I'd like to pursue that more, instead of lying and saying that you did all of that. You didn't. And so to keep it, got to keep everybody quiet, got to seal off the hatches. If they come to the wedding, I'm doomed.
So
And similar, the
so,
Raglands weren't invited either because
no.
those family stories would have come up.
Okay, so just to
Mhm.
clarify, you're saying that there were so many lies that she told about her life. She had created such a fake narrative. It
Mhm.
was just easier to have all of the family members out the way because you would not then be able to say, well, no, it didn't happen that way, Meghan. What are you talking about?
And it would have come out right at the wedding, which would have burst some bubble and ended that false admiration that she had garnished. So I think, in my opinion, it was easier. Why else would you keep someone like Uncle Mike away, who had retired from the Air Force and the United States Embassy, and a two-time Academy or award winning,
Emmy Awards, yeah.
Emmy Award winning father, um, two awards and one more nomination. Why would, and someone who gave you everything, who gave you these, without whom you would not have met the people who did Suits. Reportedly, they were Northwestern alumni. Dad paid for the Northwestern. You wouldn't have hung out at ABC TV and learned everything that you did. You wouldn't have eaten at Musso and Frank instead of rubbing two nickels together at Sizzler at a buffet.
Yeah, so you're
That's another
exactly
one.
the
So everything
portrayal
was
of
a
your
lie.
dad as some sort of bum is completely unfair. He was a highly
Right, right,
successful Hollywood
right,
sound director who
right.
opened up a world of opportunities to his youngest,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
So here's the real question. Is this the moment Meghan's carefully crafted lies finally collapse? Because when your own sister is calling you a narcissist and exposing your past, there's no coming back from that. The way I see it, Samantha Markle just opened the floodgates. If she's willing to tell the truth, who's next? Could more people from Meghan's past start speaking out? Because if they do, Meghan's entire narrative could crumble.
And he enjoyed it. They both did. He loved her. I mean, I don't think that she could have had a better life. I mean, it's all relative, but I think millions of kids everywhere would have loved to have had what she had in those opportunities. So to hear now that there's a story out there that she's sad about her parents divorcing, my dad and her mom. Well, great. At 43, it's interesting to have an epiphany about divorce so long ago. And to talk about, I heard this little thing that she reportedly said about, two houses, bridges between each, two cars, two bedrooms, two this, two that. And it wasn't the sheepdog and the fireplace, but it's like so there's still this little attempt there at like downplaying it, minimizing it,
No, no,
making it
100%. But
like she wanted something she didn't have.
But Sam, you're a trained counselor. Again, a lot of people don't know that.
Mhm.
You've had a very varied career. You've been a journalist, you've been a broadcaster, but you are a trained counselor. So I'm fascinated to know where you think this compulsive lying came from, because we know now that she is a compulsive liar. You only have to look at the Oprah interview. I mean, look, we won't go into them right now, but there are countless examples. I think we can easily prove in a court of law this is a compulsive lie. I mean, look, you're suing her because she's completely lied about her relationship with you, for example. But put your counselor hat on. Where does that come from? She had a happy childhood. She was very looked after by her father, and she had a good, solid grounding, a good, solid education. Why did she become a compulsive liar, or was she always a compulsive liar? How does that work?
So for the record, firstly, I'm not suing her because she lied about our relationship. She's being sued for the highly defamatory things that were said about me in Oprah, Netflix, and that PR had put so much stuff out there that was never true. So it's not about our relationship.
No.
That's, trivial.
No, but she did lie about that,
but
though. She claimed she didn't have a sister. I mean, look, there you are at the graduation together. I mean, it's just, but yes, I hear what you're saying.
Well, and part of that too, again, getting back to sealing off the hatches, some of that was to discredit me. It's like, oh my God, the media have found my family. I have to throw dirt on them so that nobody believes what they say. That was the game, in my opinion. And the problem from my human sister and counseling perspective is that it wasn't just about one lie. Somebody say people embellish their resumes, people throw out little lies here and there, and they get questioned, they get challenged. But when it is on continuum, and it doesn't need to be, you have to wonder what the motive is. And I think some people, especially, and I'm going to agree with Dr. Carol Lieberman and others who have thrown out the diagnosis, the unofficial diagnosis of malignant narcissist. I think some of these people believe their own lies. It makes them feel better, whether it starts off as wanting to avoid the truth or wanting to be put in a more glamorous light, to be famous, to garner that false admiration, to, the Frank Abagnale Juniors. But I think we're talking about a different personality profile here.
Yes.
To lie about the Archbishop of Canterbury on television, just to sit
as if we wouldn't find out. I mean,
to sit there and say we had a secret wedding, that wouldn't be challenged. When you're doing it, and you have the audacity to lie about high profile people, you don't think that someone's going to come out and challenge that, especially the person that you're lying about.
At this point, people are done believing Meghan's fairy tales. And if she thought she could silence her past forever, Samantha just proved her dead wrong. Alright folks, that's it for today's reaction. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe for more no BS commentary, and let's get the conversation going. Do you believe Samantha Markle's claims? Or is this just family drama blown out of proportion? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.